You know, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And when it comes to generating images with AI, sometimes it can feel like it takes at least 1,000 words to finally get the image you're looking for. Hi, I'm Brian Amrine with Value Driven Analytics, bringing you at least one video each week on analytics, data science, leadership, and yes, sometimes even Chat GPT. And today we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of OpenAI's dall-e in Chat GPT and Google's Bard. Along the way, I'll provide some advice on when to use one versus the other, and we'll have a little fun along the way as well. If that sounds good to you, let's head over to ChatGPT. Here we are in ChatGPT, and before we get started, I want to mention that I'm using the Plus plan. You can see that here, and notice that it does call out you get access to additional tools like dall-e. So dall-e may or may not be available the time you're watching this on the free version of ChatGPT. And in fact, they're using, I believe, dall-e 3 currently, and probably always coming out with new versions as well. So that's just a little bit about ChatGPT. Now, Bard is actually really easy to access. You just go to bard.google.com. So we're going to be comparing running the same prompt in ChatGPT, again, using dall-e, which is OpenAI's image generation model, versus Bard, and we'll see which one does best. And I've got several use cases I want to walk you through. Hopefully the use cases we walk through today will generate some ideas on how you could use ChatGPT or Bard for an image generation use case. The first one we're going to look at today is trying to create a realistic image, a true picture. There's all kinds of sites you can go on to search for different types of pictures for free a lot of times. But sometimes you just can't find that perfect picture that represents what you're trying to get across. For me, I do a lot of development on my website, Value Driven Analytics. And so I'm always trying to find a really good image that captures the essence of what that page is talking about. Perhaps if you build out PowerPoints, that could be another use case where you want to find that perfect image that suits what you're talking about on that page. So we're going to see if ChatGPT or Bard could be a good option for that. So let's say for my value-driven analytics website, I'm trying to take a picture of analysts collaborating to kind of show the value that the analytics transformation product that we offer can have. Okay, we'll start with ChatGPT for starters. I'll just say create an image of analysts collaborating. Now, one thing I've noticed using ChatGPT for image generation is it can take some time to generate that image. Now, let's try this in Bard at the same time so we kind of have them both working in parallel. Some parallel processing here. All right, they're both working on it. We're going to see which one's fastest, first of all. ChatGPT got a little bit of a head start here. It's still working on it. It does give you this progress bar. Oh, which is good. All right, there we go. You know, that's not bad. You know, one of the first things you probably notice about this is it's not truly realistic. I think they call this photorealistic, perhaps. It's not quite a cartoon, but it has a cartoon feel. It's definitely not like a real image you would have taken on your phone. So that may or may not be what you're looking for. In some cases, you might think this is a cool look, and that's fine. But in other cases, you might be looking for something realistic. So for me, for my website, I'd want something a little more realistic. And maybe we give ChatGPT that feedback so you can iterate, just like you can when you're asking ChatGPT any question. You can say, well, it's not quite what I was looking for. Do this thing differently this time. So let's try that with ChatGPT, and then we'll take a look at what Bard came up with. Make the photo more realistic. You could say it, looks a little like a cartoon. Let's see what Bard came up with. Wow. All right. So we get some more realistic images in Bard. I like it. This is much more in line with what I had in mind. This looks like a real picture. And this one, it could be analysts collaborating. I really don't see anything that would necessarily indicate that they're analysts. This one, it looks like they're gathered around a whiteboard. Not necessarily analyst here either, but kind of something maybe collaboration at least. You get that sense from the picture. I'm going to update this and ask, it's good, but can you show them looking at a dashboard? I'm thinking that'll really stand out as a picture that's analyst collaborating specifically. Looks like ChatGPT, okay, it came up with another image. It's somewhat similar to the image before. It's still this, I think it's photorealistic. It's not really uh, reflective of a real picture you'd take of real life. So that's just, I think, what you're going to get with dall-e. I don't think, I haven't seen where you can really get a realistic image at this point. Maybe that'll be a future enhancement. But one of the cool things about Bard is that we um, we do get realistic images, and let's check this out. Okay, so you kind of tell that maybe there's a pie chart here on this one. Still feels like it doesn't necessarily get the analyst collaborating part off. Oh, this is good. Now they're looking at a dashboard. That could be anybody, I suppose. It doesn't necessarily mean they're analysts, but yeah, that definitely has a feel of collaborating on analytics. That's something I could probably use. So I like that. Um, Now I want to show you something when it comes to iterating. It's not quite as easy to iterate, and this applies to Chat GPT or Bard on an image like you can with text. You know, if, for instance, if you're writing an article with ChatGPT and you just want to change a particular part, usually it does just fine with that. You know, update this part, and it does that specific part. With a photo, it's not quite that simple. So if I say, I like the image on the right, but I'd like the bottom left uh, chart on the screen to be yellow instead of green. So if I just want to change a specific element, and I believe this will apply to any kind of change that I wanted to make, what's probably going to happen here is it's just going to redo the image. It may be quite different. It's quite different, right? In fact, I okay, there's a little bit of yellow in the background of this one, but it's not even close to the image that we were looking at before. So it's not able to iterate within an image, and the same thing applies to ChatGPT. Now, if you wanted to download either one of these images in ChatGPT, just hover over, click this download button at the top left. With Bard, it's in the top right. So you've got a download button, very convenient. Well, another thing you might want to do with either one of these tools is perhaps take a picture of you or another person or anything and put it in a different environment just to see what you or something else would look like in a place maybe it's never been before. So we're going to do that. I've got a photo right here of me, and we're going to upload that. So if you ever want to give a file to ChatGPT, you can just drag it in or attach it here. And then I'm going to ask it, uh, show this picture of me on, let's see, on a farm. Let's just see what it comes up with. All right, there I am. The image you uploaded shows a person dressed in professional attire. Now, listen to this. If you're looking to have a picture of yourself on a farm, I can certainly create a new image with a farm setting based on your description or preferences for the scene. However, I can't physically place the exact likeness of a person from a photograph into a different setting. And then I ask if I want. It's basically offering to create an illustration, a person that looks like me on a farm. So let's maybe just see what it comes up with there, but it's not going to give an exact, it's not going to try to recreate me on a farm. Remember, it can't even create realistic images like this. So I guess it's, we should have known that it wouldn't be able to do this. All right, so yes, that sounds good. Let's see what it comes up with here, and let's go ahead and ask Bard to do the same thing. So, show this picture of me on a farm, and we'll drag this picture here as well. Okay, about your data, you can review your uploaded images. You can also delete. Okay, now, and keep this in mind, maybe Chat GPT and Bard, they probably used this picture to train on, potentially. So if you're concerned about that, you might not want to do this one. All right, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. See what it comes up with here. Okay, so oh, it's nice looking version there. We've got the same suit, the tie. They even added a tie bar on a farm. That's not too bad. Um, but it's definitely not me, right? So there's some limitations there. Not too bad. Okay. Sorry, I can't help with images of people yet. Okay, so maybe coming soon. So if you're looking to take a picture of an actual person, we could maybe try it with an image at some point or an item, but it does not want to use that in a photo. It's gonna in ChatGPT, it'll at least try and create a person that it thinks looks like you. Now, here's another thing it can do, just very briefly, and be careful with this. You may or may not want to know the answer. How old do I look in that photo? Maybe I'll ask Bard the same and we can compare. Again, be careful. You don't always want to know the answer to questions like this. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't provide personal opinions or assessments about individuals, including age estimation. Oh boy. Well, sometimes you can push Chat GPT, probably Bard as well. Um, I'll just say, it's okay. I just want an estimate. See if it'll finally do it this time. Again, this works with text prompts at least. Sometimes if you ask it to do something or tell it how, sometimes it'll finally do this. All right, oh boy, I think we got an answer. As an AI, I don't have personal perceptions and cannot provide subjective opinions. However, if you're asking for a general impression based on common human aging characteristics, yes, that sounds fine. People might estimate that the person depicted in this illustration appears to be in their late 20s to mid 30s. This is based on the appearance of maturity while still maintaining a youthful look. All right, well, if you need a confidence boost, just go to ChatGPT here, which is a characteristic often associated with this age range in illustrations. Please remember this is a rough estimate and actual age can vary significantly from appearance. So I'll just tell you, I'm not ashamed. I'm 35. So this is, I guess, some people want to be older, some people want to be younger. Thought I was a little bit younger than I actually am. Let's see what Bard thinks, or if it'll even tell me. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to see photos or analyze visual information. Okay, that doesn't sound promising. Therefore, I can't tell you how old you look in the photo you mentioned. And I'll try to maybe push a little bit on Bard as well. It's okay. You can make an estimate. Okay, we got a response back. Well, I appreciate your curiosity. Well, thank you for the appreciation. It wouldn't be responsible of me to make an estimate about your age. All right, fair enough. Um, well, let's see here. Instead, I encourage you to focus on what truly matters. Oh, well, all right here. It's kind of like a counselor now. How do you feel about yourself in the photo? Does it capture you in a happy moment? Oh boy, forget about age. That's it's kind of humorous, but it's right, It really you're as young as you feel, as they often say. Anyway, let's go back to ChatGPT. Try a different use case here. Now, earlier I mentioned that you might want to create a realistic image for a PowerPoint. Another thing you might want to do, especially for a PowerPoint or for a website as well, is create a visual, maybe a roadmap of sorts that includes words on it. So we're going to see how ChatGPT does with that task. I'd like you to create a roadmap visual showing 3 sequential steps to becoming a leader. Step 1, become as efficient as possible. Step 2, use the time saved to proactively pursue leadership initiatives. And step 3, talk to your manager about your ambitions. Let's see what it comes up with here. I'm looking for something that kind of shows a flow, a roadmap of sorts, maybe a map itself. We'll see what it comes up with. And same thing over here. We're going to see what Bard comes up with. All right, it's taking a little bit of time. Both of these seem to take a similar amount of time, I would say, in general. Sometimes one will be quicker than the other. Looks like Bard created a graph for us. Steps 0, 1, 2. Okay, it's starting with 0. That's something that Python does. I wonder if it's using Python to create this. But, you know, in reality, we'd start with step 1, 2, and 3, and then it's showing us progress 0, 1, 2. This is not very helpful at all. At least it has a title to it, Roadmap to Becoming a Leader. Be sure to check the data in the chart to make sure I got it right. I didn't ask it to create any data. I'm not looking for a chart. I'm looking for a visual that shows the 3 steps. We'll see if it gets it on the second try. In the meantime, let's go back to ChatGPT. Now let's take a closer look at the ChatGPT visual. One thing that you'll notice here is some of the words are actually not spelled correctly. I don't know how that happens. That seems like if ChatGPT can create these really detailed images that of course it'd be able to spell the words correctly, right? It does just fine when you give it a text prompt and gives you text back, but it struggles with spelling the words correctly. And on the other hand, when it comes to Bard, it can spell the words correctly, but it seems to have completely given up on the image itself. It doesn't always give you a really good image. I've seen it try to create some, and they just end up being really simple, not what we're looking for at all. So what do you do if you're looking to create a roadmap that looks nice for your PowerPoint? Well, there's, of course, other tools that you could use to build the roadmap, but if you're trying to use AI, perhaps one thing you could do is ask it to create a roadmap visual, but don't include any words. You know, maybe if there's just a few words in your visual, you can tell ChatGPT it misspelled it, see if it does better the second time. But a lot of times it could take a few tries for that to happen, and it may never get there. Eventually, after a few times of giving it feedback to update it, it'll kind of give up and say, well, I'm not at that stage yet. Maybe in dall-e 4, who knows? So let's see what it comes up with if it's able to kind of create a roadmap visual, because then what you could potentially do is take that roadmap visual and then layer on text on top of it, maybe in something like PowerPoint, but at least you'd have a starting roadmap visual. Okay, so that maybe could work with this one. There's no words on it. You might be able to put some words over on these different sides to show the roadmap. But again, you might be better off using another tool to design your roadmap. For ChatGPT and Bard, unfortunately, I don't think either one does a great job with that at this point. Now, another use case you might have for image generation is, let's say you're planning on launching a new club, a new company, a new organization, and you need a logo for it. Let's see how ChatGPT and Bard do with that task. Well, I'll start with seeing what kind of logo it would come up with for value-driven analytics. I like my logo, but let's just see what it comes up with. I'm an analytics consulting company called Value Driven Analytics. We offer full service analytics consulting services. Design a logo that conveys analytics you can trust. The more specific, the better. Hopefully it's able to come up with something that meets your requirements, but you've got to tell it what those requirements are. Of course, you could kind of leave it wide open and see what it comes up with. That can be interesting too sometimes, and then you can iterate from there. Again, it's probably going to design a completely different logo the second time. It's this image generation with both Bard and ChatGPT. It's not great for iterating on a previous image. It always seems to start from scratch. Let's see what Bard comes up with here as well. Go back to ChatGPT. It looks like it's finished. Okay. Well, we've got some bar charts in there, an arrow that points up, signifying perhaps, an impact of growing sales. Oh boy, the L looks a little odd here, so that is going to be a problem. It's spelled analytics right. The L here seems a little bit off. I could try to give ChatGPT that feedback. Um, the L in value needs to be updated. Could say, it's not showing properly. Let's just see if it's able to correct that. Now, one thing that's a little tricky with this is it's an image. You kind of have to extract the specific part. I suppose you could do that with something like PowerPoint, bring in the image and have it remove the background. That could be one way to take this logo and remove that. And it's actually already done that. Well, it's given it a white background this time. Now it's misspelled analytics. You see what I mean? And if I keep doing this, it's probably eventually going to give up and tell me that it's not able to do that. So at this point, what I might have to do is remove the words. I just can't handle that. I might need to add that. Take the picture part, perhaps, put it in PowerPoint, add some words below it. That could be an option. It's clearly not ideal for logo designing, but maybe it gives you a good start, and it gives you some ideas here. And unfortunately, the logo in the second one completely different from the first. So if you like this logo, you just wanted to just adjust this L here, and maybe you just have to take this logo, a screenshot of it in PowerPoint, remove the background, and then add if you wanted to have value-driven analytics below it, add that yourself in PowerPoint. Kind of take a screenshot of that. It's not necessarily going to give you, most likely, the exact logo that you can use. Well, and here's one that took away the words. Well, look at that. It's got a plant here, which is kind of cool. Maybe symbolizes growth. And of course, you've got the arrow pointing up and to the right that symbolizes growth as well. It's not bad. Let's see what Bard came up with. Okay, so it's asking about a few different concepts here. It's giving us the concepts first. It hasn't designed anything yet. Yeah, it really hasn't given us any images, but it does give us some concepts here. Design a logo for concept one. It says a stylized graph. Let's see, stylized graph, line graph with an upward trend, formatting a checkmark shape to emphasize reliable insights. The color blue, which apparently represents trustworthy professionalism, and gold, value and expertise. Clean, modern. All right, well, let's see it in action here. Okay, it's not bad. It's kind of simple. Let's see what happens if we zoom in here. We could easily remove this gray background if we wanted to. Oh, there's another version here. Well, the arrow is kind of cut off there. It's pretty simple. I guess this blue here kind of represents a V for value-driven analytics, so kind of like that aspect. It's not bad. I might make some modifications to it, but I think this is much simpler than what ChatGPT came up with. So it really depends on the look you're going for. If you want maybe more complexity, seems like ChatGPT is doing that. And we could probably maybe give some feedback if we wanted more complexity over here in Bard as well, see what it comes up with. Well, the next use case I want to show you is, what if you had an idea for a room in your house that you just wanted to completely redesign? Maybe you're building a new house or thinking about a remodeling project. Maybe it's for your office. Maybe it's for your backyard. What if we asked ChatGPT to give us a picture of something based on some ideas we have, but we want to see it in a picture? Let's see what Bard and ChatGPT come up with for something like that. So I was asking my wife about this, about what her ideal kitchen looks like, and as an aside, my wife she says I have real two things I need to work on. One is I need to listen better, and two, well, I can't remember the other. No, just kidding. I remember what she said on this one. Um, she wanted a kitchen, so design a kitchen, and she said she wanted it to have high ceilings, lots of natural light. She wanted a hidden fridge and two sinks. I think I got that right. So let's see if ChatGPT can give us an image that can maybe inspire some ideas that we could give to a contractor or perhaps an architect to take it from there. Now, I have tried to do this with floor plans. Hey, I've got a room of this size and I need to put this furniture in it. What do you come up with? I wasn't really impressed with the results. It didn't seem to always even represent the size of the room I was talking about. So maybe it's user error, or maybe it's an opportunity that ChatGPT might be able to do in the future. Wow. What a beautiful photo. It's high ceilings for sure, definitely a lot of natural light. Now the fridge, it's got quite a few fridges here, but it doesn't quite, definitely not hidden. I'm kind of thinking about maybe something that has cabinets on top of the fridge that makes it blend in with the cabinetry. Definitely not a hidden fridge. That's okay. It looks like we've got one, two, three, four, at least four fridges in this kitchen. I think that's probably enough. And it does look like there are some maybe multiple faucets there. Yeah, that's interesting. I just see one big sink here, but maybe multiple faucets. That's a little odd. But boy, what a beautiful photo. It definitely spurs the imagination. And, a neat thing about this is if you wanted to see some other designs, you could say, that looks great. Could you show me another? And of course, you could look at real designs out there and browse different kitchens, but this one's taking into account all the, well, ideally all the things you mentioned. In this case, kind of ignored the hidden fridge part and maybe the double sink as well. But it gets the idea stirring, so it's a fun thing to play around with. Let's just try this exact prompt in Bard and see what it comes up with. Who's going to do a better job here? And let's see ChatGPT's second design. Oh boy, lots of natural light. Yeah, that is very interesting. It looks like it's got two microwaves or ovens here. The fridge is still not hidden. It still looks like it only has one sink. But boy, it definitely got the high ceilings and the natural light in there for sure. Oh boy, beautiful design. So let your imagination run wild here. Okay, so it's given us some documentation of what we're looking for. I'll just say, I want you to create a picture of it. Similar to what Bard did before on a previous use case, it started with just a text description. So now I'm being very specific that I want a picture in this case. It looks like it's working on it here. All right. And this is common for Bard as well. It gives us a couple of options, which I like. Um, well, high ceilings for sure. Decent number of windows in the kitchen. Good amount of natural light. I am not necessarily seeing any sinks necessarily. I imagine there might be one over here, maybe one on the island that we can't see. Let's look at photo number 2 here. High ceilings again, quite a few windows for natural light. That makes sense. Here's our sink. Maybe another sink in the back. So Bard did pretty well with this. And this is, again, going back to our first use case with the analysts collaborating. this is realistic. This looks like a real picture of a home right here. The ones that ChatGPT are giving us is that photorealistic. It's a little cartoonish, right? It's beautiful, beautiful ideas, but not quite realistic, like a real picture like Bard gives us. So I think you could probably get some really creative ideas with ChatGPT, again, cartoonish, but some very realistic ideas with Bard is what I'm seeing in this latest use case. Okay, are you ready to have some fun? We're just going to do a couple more use cases. Really going to get creative here. Uh, I think someone told me their favorite animal the other day was a giraffe. I forget who it was. And as an analyst, I'm really curious to see what an analytical giraffe would look like. So let's ask ChatGPT to create a picture of a giraffe performing analytics. Let's see if it can do something really abstract like this. I mean, images of a home is one thing, but an animal performing analysis, well, it really sky's the limit if you can do that. And let's see what Bard comes up with as well. Okay, ChatGPT still working on it. Same thing with Bard. Again, they usually take about the same amount of time. Oh boy. So we're going to start with this one and we'll do another one right after. I think will be interesting. Look at that. A giraffe with a tie on, spots and everything, and doing a serious dashboard here. I like it. Maybe not the pie chart. Analysts don't always think pie charts are the best way to visualize something, but at least he's only showing two different breakouts in the pie chart. When you start getting into three, it's very hard to see what's really going on. It can be misleading. But all that to say, definitely a giraffe that is analyzing things really good. And again, it's a cartoon. It'd be pretty tough to create a realistic giraffe performing analysis. That would truly be impressive. Whoa, okay. Here's Bard. They've got a picture in a room with a giraffe, and it looks like maybe this is a line here that you might see in a graph. Not a fan of that one, but look at this second one. Not necessarily realistic giraffe, but fairly realistic. And then it's got a picture, it looks like of a dashboard in the back, or at least a graph. That's not bad. It's a little bit more realistic than maybe this is more like photorealistic in Bard. Let's just ask it to make it look more realistic. I like the second image, make it more realistic. See what it comes up with there. I'm pretty happy with this. Again, this is something that if you had a presentation on, maybe you're doing an analysis on a zoo, you could take an image like that, throw it into your PowerPoint slide, and then have your bullets on the right or something like that, and add some humor in there. I think maybe I'll do that if I have an opportunity. Okay, it's tried to make it a little more realistic. It's still photorealistic, right? It's not giving us a picture that you would take on your phone. Well, if you could ever find a giraffe doing analysis. Somewhat realistic, photorealistic, a little cartoonish. Okay, let's try one more use case. Show me a picture of George Washington at disco. I'm just curious to see what it comes up with. That sounds kind of funny to me. And let's see what Bard does at the same time. Now we're really going to see their creativity, right? Still working on it over here. Yeah, it's maybe a tough thing to combine. Okay, Bard has already told us I can't generate images of that. Try asking me to generate images of something else. Okay, it's not even going to try. Maybe sometimes like with Chat GPT, I have to tell it to try again. It's okay. Please generate the image. Let's see if it'll do it a second time here. And in the meantime, let's come back here. Wow, that is cool. Uh, George Washington looking fly on the disco floor. A whimsical scene has been created featuring George Washington enjoying himself at a disco. Certainly is. That is impressive. Again, it's not realistic, it's photorealistic, but I think it's kind of funny combining the decades. And you can see some of the people in the background. These might be, these it looks like they're dressed in today's attire. This guy looks like he might be dressed in maybe 1700s attire, 1800s attire. That's that's pretty cool. That's pretty creative. Okay, you gotta be kidding me. It's generated an image of a cat. Who doesn't love a good cat photo, right? Especially a cat video. But Bard is just not going to do this for us, it looks like. But ChatGPT, man, what creativity here. All right, well, let's say I want to add Abraham Lincoln to the photo. Let's see what it comes up with. And, this is something while I'm waiting, and this applies to coding as well. While you're waiting for something to return the results, often happens in coding as well, you can almost start your next prompt based on anticipating what you want to do next. In coding, it would be starting to code the next thing based on what you anticipate the results being. That way you're not just waiting around. In this case, I'm talking to you, which is not a bad way to spend the time either. But there they are, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln on the disco floor. Very cool. All right, well, let's add Andrew Jackson as well. See if we can put all three of them on there. I mean, you can just go crazy with ideas that you have and create some really interesting photos. It's amazing what we can come up with, and we take that vision, and then ChatGPT creates a picture for us of it. It's really neat. And maybe next I'll ask it to add Martha Washington dancing with George. Do that next. But there's Andrew Jackson there, right in the middle. Very nice. And we'll add Martha Washington dancing with George Washington. See if it can accomplish that. And a lot of people associate George Washington with a cherry tree. Maybe we'll add it to add a cherry tree. How is it going to add a cherry tree in a disco? Let's give it a shot. See if it can do that more complex task. Add a cherry tree. We'll wait to see if it can add Martha Washington and then give it this final prompt. Oh, this time it gave us two, kind of like Bard does oftentimes. Oh boy. Now this is interesting. It almost looks like the faces are pretty realistic here. Not perfectly realistic, but there they are. And there's Abraham Lincoln, and I guess this is Andrew Jackson, and then there's Martha and George Washington. Again, the faces are quite realistic here. This is an interesting one. And we're gonna have it add a cherry tree. That'll be icing on the cake if it's able to do that as well. Just a lot of fun that you can have with this, right? Think about just crazy scenarios, see what ChatGPT can come up with, have some fun. Maybe in some cases it makes sense to add this to a PowerPoint for a laugh. It's I'm pretty impressed with this. Again, it's cartoonish somewhat. It's definitely not realistic, but boy, ChatGPT is doing a great job with creativity here. Okay. Cherry tree has been added. So the cherry tree is in the middle of the disco floor. Very interesting. It looks like a cherry tree. It's got those pink blossoms there. And I guess these folks are at a disco. Looks like they're kind of doing their own thing now. So less about the dancing at this point, more about the cherry tree on the disco floor. Well, hopefully you found this video useful and maybe you got a laugh out of some of our last use cases like I did. But when you think about Bard versus ChatGPT for image generation, I think Bard probably does the best job if you're looking for a realistic image. That's going to be probably your best bet at this point. If you're using Chat GPT, it's probably going to look at least somewhat cartoonish or photorealistic, as they say. On the other hand, when it comes to creating a really creative, flexible image, ChatGPT, we saw it has a lot of flexibility, a lot of creativity. There were some cases when Bard just said, I can't do this. So Bard seems to have some limitations there. ChatGPT also has limitations. In fact, both of them couldn't really take a true picture of me and put it in another scene. ChatGPT tried to do that by creating someone that they thought looked like me in the scene, but there's definitely limitations with both of these. When it comes to ChatGPT, if you're looking to include words in a picture, forget about it. Most of the time, maybe if you only had one word, perhaps some iterations might spell it correctly, but it seems like most of the time, if you've got several words, at least something's going to be misspelled. And even after you ask it to try it again, it usually has some kind of a weird formatting or a misspelling if you're including words in ChatGPT. Bard does a good job spelling the words correctly, but the visuals around it are not ideal. So if you're going to use either one of these tools, maybe you use ChatGPT, and just to get a roadmap visual with no words, bring it into something like PowerPoint and then layer the words on top of it. That could be an option for now. So I hope that comparison is helpful. If you've enjoyed this video, consider liking the video. And if you'd like to see more ChatGPT videos like this one, as well as analytics, data science, and leadership training, please consider subscribing to our channel. If you have any questions or want to add any comments about what we saw today, please consider leaving a comment on the video, and I hope to see you in our next video.